Hello everyone and welcome to the latest Dragon Ball FighterZ patch. The May patch has brought a lot of balance changes and we're going to look at all of them one by one, starting with adult Gohan here. The first note that we see on Gohan's patch is the low light attack has been modified to match the properties of other low light attacks. Not entirely sure what that did. It's still a medium attack, it can still be blocked while standing. The recovery time seems very similar. It might just be a minor adjustment, not very noticeable to most players. But what is very noticeable is the heavy version of his mid-air ultimate back attack, which now allows opponents to tack out after being hit. It still performs a slide knockdown, but previously, after being hit by this attack, you can not get up. Now, you can tack up, you can tack back, you can just delay the stand-up. You got a lot more options defensively. Gohan's loops have also been nerfed. The heavy attack version of the machine gun kick has now lost its frame advantage. Previously, Gohan, after doing the machine gun kick, he was able to throw 2 light attacks. Now he's only got time for 1 because he lost that frame advantage. This is still not punishable by a down heavy. You still get hit if you try to do that, but you can now reflect after the machine gun kick, creating some distance, and if there's enough time for a reflect, there's enough time for a level 3 super. And of course, if you have a character like Vegeta with a DP, you can always do the DP as well. So if Gohan really wants those loops to connect, now he actually needs the assists to come in to cover for that minimum gap. Otherwise, there's a little gap that you might want to take advantage of. Next up, we have Android 16, who people have been saying he's the one that's been hit the hardest in this patch. His dynamite driver, which is his command grab while on the ground, now no longer causes a hard knockdown. It just causes like a normal slide knockdown, and you can tack out of it. So you can tack backwards, you can tack upwards. This gives you some options for recovery, and it takes away 16's option for reset, like he had before the patch. From the hard knockdown, you knew where the opponent was going to get up from, and now you kind of have to guess. There are still ways to cover all the options, but at least the opponent won't get caught in a combo. At most, you'll just get caught in another block string. Now, overall, this doesn't change 16 too much. 16 players might actually look to doing a different combo coming off of Vanish, because now they lose that reset potential. So they might go for something that deals a little bit more damage instead of this, but other than that, I think he's still a very good character, to be honest. He's still got that command grab mix-up. The only thing he really lost is the reset potential after that hard knockdown. He also lost invincibility on his heavy attacks on ranged attacks only. Melee attacks still have armor, but for ranged, now his heavy attacks aren't as strong. So 16 can't just do this randomly from a distance. He needs to think about it a little bit more carefully. Next up, Vegeta and his assist that has finally been nerfed after many requests. So, as an active character, no changes. The last note of the patch, I actually interpreted it as if Ki Blast gets reflected from Vegeta, he can no longer cancel that into the DP. And this is basically Vegeta's zoning strategy, because if someone super dashes through the Ki Blasts, he can just cancel that into the DP. Now, if that was the change, that would change a lot more than just Vegeta. It would be a huge nerf to Vegeta, but that was actually a real bug fix, where if Vegeta came in from the assist position, the active character could just cancel special moves into other special moves. It was kind of crazy. So glad that has been fixed, but canceling from reflected Ki Blast or super dash Ki Blast into Vegeta's DP, that is unchanged. So really the only thing that changed was his assist. Now his assist has pretty much the same duration, deals the same amount of damage. If there is a difference in duration, it's very small and almost unnoticeable. But what really changed is on block, you are now able to do things like super dash, for instance. So after you start blocking the Vegeta assist, you can super dash to your opponent. You can also reflect after starting to block. And this means you're no longer just locked down in place if someone calls the Vegeta assist from all across the screen, because you can reflect an attack, or you can super dash towards the opponent. There are options now. This was a much needed change for Vegeta. I still think this is the best assist attack in the entire game, even with this nerf. It might not have been enough for Vegeta. He's still a very good active character. I still think we're going to see a lot of Vegeta players, but this is a very welcome change indeed. Up next is Hit, who received kind of a minor change. Apparently it was a bug when you saw the other characters during Hit's level 3 super. I think it was a neat feature, but apparently no. Apparently that was a bug, so now when you call Hit, those characters are gone. Beerus over here received a pretty good buff. His low-medium attack used to have a very long recovery time, time, you used to be able to punish that with a medium attack, even with a heavy attack. Now you can still punish Beerus low-medium with a light attack, but you can't punish that with a medium attack anymore, or the heavy, of course. If you can't punish with a medium, no way you're gonna be able to punish that with a heavy. Pretty good buff to Beerus. I think we're gonna see Beerus doing some delay mix-up a lot more often now that his recovery time on the low-medium is a lot lower. So yeah, I'm happy for Beerus. Nappa received a bit of a nerf, which was something that I certainly did not expect. But let's start with some positive stuff. The knockback distance of Nappa's jumping down heavy is now more likely to hit twice. Honestly, I haven't felt that in a combo or anything. You still can't connect with it in an aerial combo without use of an assist or without use of vanish, for instance. So maybe in longer combos where the stun time is getting pretty short, maybe at that point you'll have an easier time connecting with the jumping down heavy. Nappa players will probably be able to speak about this a lot better. Now, for the nerf, his Cyberman explosion used to deal 1000 damage. The explosion itself now only deals 900. But in a combo, it actually looks pretty goddamn similar. We've got a pretty small combo here that we did before and after patch, and the damage is exactly the same. So the patch note says that it adjusted the damage scaling of Cyberman's explosive attacks. The scaling might be better now, but the base damage is actually worse. And the base damage change was something that was not in the patch notes. Also in the patch notes is mitigated the damage scaling of Nappa's Too Bad to balance out with other invincible moves. Too Bad is this parry-like move that Nappa has, but in a combo, I really don't see it. It still deals exactly the same amount of damage, maybe for bigger combos, but for small stuff like this, the damage scaling mitigation, I just don't feel it at all. Android 18's back grab, or the light version of the back grab, has been slightly modified. Now it's 2 hits, and that means in a scaling situation in a combo, that's going to deal less damage because it's an extra hit. Not a big deal, but it is less damage for a grab that is barely used by most Android 18 players. Piccolo over here got his assist quote-unquote fixed. Apparently it was a bug, the cross-up assist move that Piccolo had. So when you have Piccolo as an assist character, he's gonna throw that slow-moving fireball, and previously if you crossed up to the opponent's back, he could still block it while moving both ways, moving forward or moving backwards. It did not matter. I did see a lot of people sad that this was getting fixed, that this wasn't actually a wanted mechanic, the cross-up with Piccolo. Honestly, I still think you can do it, you just have to keep it ambiguous enough, so you pretty much have to jump at the same time as the Ki Blast is moving towards your opponent to really keep it ambiguous where the Ki Blast is coming from. Let's talk about Broly next. Previously, there was a bunch of abilities that his powered shell just wouldn't work with. One of them was Android 21's, which kind of looked like a feature, to be honest, because the total detonation ball, the heavy attack version in particular, it didn't go through the shell unless you had some absorbed abilities. And in Android 21's case, if you have some absorbed abilities, that becomes a more powerful attack. So it would neutralize Broly's powered shell. It wouldn't go through it, but it wouldn't make it vanish. It would make it go away. Now that's no longer the case. Now it just works like any other projectile. The powered shell absorbs it, and Broly is just happy as ever. Krillin over here got one heck of a buff. It's a buff to his assist attack, actually. As an active character, he's still pretty much the same. So as an assist, his rock is now a lot more useful. It causes a huge hit stun upon hit. Like, you can just initiate combos a lot easier from this. You can even super dash. You can wait until the rock hits to super dash even. It's a lot easier to combo with Krillin's rock. In addition to that, you can now select which one of Krillin's assists you want to pull off. Do you want the rock or do you want the Senzu Bean? Previously, if you had any blue health, Krillin would automatically throw a Senzu Bean. Now, you can have blue health and still choose to throw the rock instead. By simply pressing the assist button, Krillin will only throw the rock. If you want the Senzu Bean, you have to hold back and the assist button. It's really cool that now you get to choose which one of Krillin's assists you want. That gives you more control of that character as an assist. Vegeta Blue received a bit of a buff. His level 1 super, the Niagara Pummel, has received a buff on the very first hit. The full super still deals roughly the same damage, but the first hit now deals a lot more. Why? Don't ask me. In a combo, the damage is still fairly similar, so a pretty minor buff, all things considered. Also, it modified the scaling on several Ki Blast moves, but as with all the scaling so far that we checked on this video, there's no significant change that we saw. I mean, we've all used some pretty short combos, so maybe the scaling kicks in after the Ki Blast or after the moves that have been changed, but looking at the actual move itself, the damage seems pretty similar. Also in the patch notes, adjusted Vegeta's grab, so now it's easier to grab an opponent and follow up with Z assists. With the assists that we tested, we got some pretty similar results. Beam attacks still don't connect, but fast assists do, and it's still as tough as it ever was to connect with those assists. There might be a bit of a fast recovery coming out of Vegeta's grab, so he is able to move before he was, but the timing to call in the assists is still roughly the same. The assists that did not connect still don't connect, but Vegeta is able to move sooner, which means he's able to follow up with other attacks a bit easier. It's not a huge buff, it's not a lot easier than it was before, but it does seem to have changed slightly. Gotenks got hit by nothing but bug fixes, but one of those bug fixes was something that was highly used in professional play. His assist, the donut ring, it forced enemies to re-stand on the ground even when they were airborne, and this was particularly useful after long combos. Now, while on the ground, the assist still leaves the opponent on the ground. It doesn't make them fly until the second hit. But the thing was, if the hit stun was large enough, the first hit would force the opponent to restand, and because the hit stun was so small after a big combo, the opponent would block the second hit, but that would be the perfect reset opportunity for someone looking to initiate a second combo. So that bug is now gone. That was not a feature, that was apparently a bug, because if you do it the same way you did so far, what will happen is the opponent will stay airborne and will be able to tech out after the first hit. Pretty big nerf for Gotenks assist. The rest of the character in general has remained unchanged. Frieza got a little bit of a buff to his down heavy, which seems pretty significant, but his move "You Might Not Survive This" actually got a little bit nerfed on the other hand. So whether you think Frieza was buffed or nerfed, I think ultimately depends on your playstyle. Personally, I think this is an overall buff because the damage nerf is significant, but not as significant as the correction done to his down heavy. So what did they do to his down heavy? It still behaves pretty much the same, but the hitbox closer to Frieza has been improved. So previously, some attacks, for example, Adult Gohan's ultimate back attack, the light attack version, Frieza wouldn't be able to punish it with a down heavy. But now, no problem whatsoever. Now, this is only an example. Of course, there are other cases where Frieza wasn't able to punish with a down heavy. Now he will be able to do it much more consistently. On the other hand, You Might Not Survive This has received some nerfs. The attack from ranged deals exactly the same amount of damage. If you catch the opponent from close range, it doesn't deal the same amount of damage, but it's pretty close as well. The scaling on it, though, that has been significantly nerfed. So if we put that in a combo, Frieza has received quite a bit of a nerf. So he's gonna have to work even harder for damage in combo situations if you're planning to use this move, which honestly most people do in Frieza combos. It's a really good finisher. Finally, what promised to be one of the biggest changes in this patch was not character specific. It was to do with the reflect. The patch note reads that it's now harder to execute Z reflect for the second time in succession. That doesn't seem to be the case, whether you're doing it in the air or actually reflecting a hit. One of the sponsors asked me on Discord if the nerf to the Z reflect would be actually a buff to Piccolo's Hell Zone grenade setup. The answer is no, obviously not, because honestly, the change to the Z reflect, I don't even feel it at this point. Maybe once we get some real matches in, but at this point, testing in practice mode, it feels so similar to what it was previously. So one of the biggest changes coming in this patch is not one of the biggest changes at all. And actually, I almost forgot, but there's one last change that affects every single character in the game, and that is more invulnerability during a dash switch to the Dragon Rush. So now it will be harder to catch someone with the Dragon Rush while they are dashing. This is a pretty big change that's gonna affect, you know, a lot of different playstyles. Obviously, if you're trying to just run away from a block string, this will be very useful, but I think especially in situations where you block a vanish and the opponent would go for a Dragon Rush, the backdash is now an even more viable option because there's a lot more invulnerability here. And those are the major changes. This is a pretty big patch. There are a lot of bug fixes that we didn't go through because, you know, there are bug fixes and most of you have never even seen them, so now you will never see them because they're no longer in the game. The scaling changes, we had some trouble figuring them out. Most of the combos that we tried before the patch, they still deal the same amount of damage. That said, we did try some pretty small combos, so our bad. Maybe the scaling comes after the moves have been part of a combo and not when the actual moves connect. Does that make sense? Am I speaking gibberish? Probably at this point. But I hope this video has let you know at least what the biggest changes are. These were the most significant. These are the ones that will be felt the most by players who main the characters that have been affected. Overall, Vegeta assist nerf, Android 16 got hit pretty hard, Krillin got a lot of love. Everything else seems pretty minor, but of course, if you main one of those characters, any small change might mean the world to you. Let me know in the comments below which change has affected you the most and which change do you wish had been made in this patch. I'm expecting a lot of you to say, Cell loops. Goddamn Cell loops were not fit. I can't believe they did not touch Cell. I'm with you. I cannot believe they did not touch Cell. For more Dragon Ball FighterZ, learn how to escape the corner, the deadliest weapon in Dragon Ball FighterZ. You have to know how to get out. Check out that video at the top right there. If you're in the mood for something else, there's also the video at the bottom, but as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.